as to why this particular process is significant, as it helps us produce some very important constituents for the functioning of the cell, which includes pentoses as well as NADPH molecule, right? And we said that pentoses obviously is required for biosynthesis of several important biomolecules in the cell. And we also said that NADPH is going to be needed to carry out reduction again during anabolic reactions, during biosynthesis. So we said that HMP is a very significant pathway, and that's the reason why cells of our body and even of the other organisms have this ability to switch from glycolysis to HMP in order to synthesize pentoses and NADPH. Now, this surely doesn't mean that the cells which have this ability are going to stay in HMP forever. No, we need to understand that they will switch from glycolysis to HMP whenever there is going to be a shortage of pentoses and NADPH. If we have those in abundance, then there is no need to switch from glycolysis to HMP. Okay. So we also said that there are two phases in HMP. You have an oxidative phase and you have a non-oxidative phase. Okay. So we will be seeing the oxidative phase first, after which we will go to the non-oxidative phase. Okay. So let us start with the oxidative phase. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Okay. So in the oxidative phase, we will see how we are going to synthesize 5 carbon compound from a 6 carbon compound. Okay. So the very first reaction, that is, glucose to glucose 6 phosphate, will remain the same as you have seen in glycolysis, or glucose 6 phosphate is formed during the transport itself by the phosphotransferase system. Okay. Now here you will see another way of writing, of representing glucose structurally. Okay, because we know that glucose has this tendency of forming the closed structure, right? The way we represent glucose. So they have shown a different way of representing that closed structure. Okay, so let us see how do they do that. Just okay. I don't know, something is wrong. Just give me a minute. Okay, yes, it's working. Fine. So you will see that they represent glucose like this. So here we are writing glucose 6 phosphate. They represent glucose 6 phosphate like this. Because you know that even when you write glucose in that ring shaped structure, you represent it like this, right? This oxygen atom is shown as the connecting bridge. The same thing is being represented over here as well, okay, but in a slightly different way. That's the basic difference. Okay, so this is how you will write your glucose 6 phosphate. Let us go back to see what happens to this particular molecule of glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, so we are going to carry out oxidation with this. Okay, we are going to remove hydrogens from this, and here the acceptor of hydrogens is going to be nicotinamide adenine diphosphate. Okay, so dinucleotide phosphate, sorry. So NADP is going to be your acceptor. Now where am I going to remove the hydrogens from? So I am going to get rid of the hydrogen from the first carbon. So these two hydrogens are what I'm going to remove. Okay, so when I remove this, obviously it's accepted by NADP, forming NADPH and H plus. Okay, and you will have a dehydrogenase enzyme working over here because it's oxidation. So your enzyme is going to be dehydrogenase, and you know that the prefix of dehydrogenase. How do you decide the prefix for dehydrogenase? Do you remember?
Based
So
on
the
the
name of the substrate.
Very
Substrate.
good. The name
substrate
of the
name.
substrate from which you are going to remove hydrogen is going to be your prefix. So it becomes glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. And this enzyme has cofactor S, magnesium ions. Now, when I remove these two hydrogens, what am I left with? I am left with C double bond O because I've removed both the hydrogens there. The rest of the part is going to remain the same. So I will write it like this. So what is this? This is going to be called as 6-phospho because I still have a phosphate group on the sixth carbon. Gluconolactone. Okay, so this particular structure that you have formed is a lactone. Now, this term should remind you of something that you have studied earlier in FI as well. Do you remember something like this called as AHL? कुछ याद आता है इससे?
Acetyl homoserine lactone or something.
असाइल होमोसेरीन
Yeah,
लैक्टोन.
sorry.
कहाँ पढ़ा था ये हमने? कहाँ पढ़ा था हमने FI में? अभी कुछ याद आ रहा
Biofilm
है?
formation.
What is AHL? It's an example of quorum sensing molecule. So this particular structure also that you're seeing right now here is a lactone. Okay, so it's from the same family of chemicals. Right? Now, in the next step, we are going to break this lactone down. We are going to, break it down to an open structure. Right now, it's in the closed format. We are going to break it down to an open structure. Okay, so how do we do that? So we are going to make use of a water molecule for this purpose. So I want to break this part down. ये जो है connection इसको मुझे तोड़ना है such that this oxygen now is associated only with the first carbon and nowhere else. I don't want it to be associated with the fifth carbon. So I want to break this linkage, okay, such that it looks something like this: C double bond O, O minus. I have both the oxygens associated to the first carbon. Okay, and obviously this space will remain now at the fifth carbon, it's going to be empty. So I have to add something over there. So I am going to substitute it with a hydroxyl group. Once I break that linkage, I will put the hydroxyl group. Where is that hydroxyl group coming from? It's coming from the water molecule. तो जब आप ये लिंकेज ब्रेक करोगे तो ऑक्सीजन फर्स्ट कार्बन के साथ रह जाएगा और फिफ्थ कार्बन में जो लैक्यूना बन गया है वहां पर हम हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप ऐड करेंगे जो पानी में से आ रहा है. So my structure will be C double bond O, CHOH, COHH, CHOH, CH again OH, and CH2O phosphate. So that's nothing but 6-phosphogluconic acid or gluconate. Okay. Now, obviously, you ended up using just a hydroxyl group in this process. So one hydrogen is going to be thrown out. Okay, so one proton is going to be given out. Only the hydroxyl group is being made use of. Okay, and the enzyme that works to break this lactone ring is what we call as lactonase. And the cofactor which functions over here is magnesium ions. So lactonase is the enzyme which breaks the ring structure, converting my 6-phosphogluconolactone to 6-phosphogluconate. A water molecule is utilized in the process, a proton is released, lactonase is the enzyme, and magnesium is the cofactor. Is it very clear till this point? Have you understood these two reactions, everyone? Can I
Yes, sir.
see
Yes.
yes
Yes,
or
sir.
no
Yes,
in the
sir.
comment box? Okay, great. All of you have understood. That's great. Amazing. So we will do one thing. We will write these two reactions down before we go ahead, and then we will, move to the next set of reactions. So here is your reactions. Just note it down as it is, and then we will move to the next two set of reactions. Okay, so let's go ahead for the next set of reactions. So let us see what happens after 6-phosphogluconate is formed. So just so that we have the structure in front of us, I will write the structure of 6-phosphogluconate once again. Okay. So this was how my 6-phosphogluconate was looking like. 6-phosphogluconate, gluconic acid, whatever. Now I am going to carry out oxidative decarboxylation. Now what do you mean by oxidative decarboxylation? You are going to do two things together. One, you're removing carbon dioxide. Where is that carbon dioxide coming from? This particular group is what we are going to release out as carbon dioxide. Okay. So I have lost that now. Okay, so this tells you that how we are reducing 6 carbons to 5 carbons, because we are releasing out one of those carbons in the form of carbon dioxide. Okay, that's how we have reduced the 6 carbon structure to a 5 carbon structure. And second thing that we are going to do is we are going to remove hydrogens. Now again, as we remove hydrogens, the acceptor here is going to be NADP. Okay, and where are we going to remove the hydrogens from? So we are going to remove the hydrogens from the hydroxyl group of the third carbon, and again the hydrogen from the third carbon. Okay, so this particular carbon will become C double bond O. Okay, because we are removing both the hydrogens from there. Now that hydrogen is going to be accepted by NADP and will become NADPH. But I'll not write H plus here because that H plus is going to be added to this carbon. Okay, so NADPH and H plus ka H plus will be re-provided to this carbon such that this becomes CH2OH, because we are short of one hydrogen over here, so that hydrogen is given up by the NADPH H plus, so that H plus is added over here to give you CH2OH. This is going to be C double bond O. This is going to be CHOH. This is also going to remain the same, and finally the phosphate group. So this is nothing but a sugar, a pentose sugar in its phosphate ester form. So it's ribulose 5-phosphate. So what did we do? We got rid of this as carbon dioxide. We removed hydrogens from the third carbon such that it becomes C double bond O. One hydrogen was given to NADP forming NADPH, and the second H plus is reshuttled to the second carbon such that it becomes CH2OH, such that we form a 5 carbon compound here, which is a sugar, that is ribulose 5-phosphate. Okay, now if you isomerize this, if you carry out isomerization, you are going to get another pentose. But before that, we have forgotten to write the enzyme name here. So here, as you are carrying out oxidative decarboxylation, I have told you that whenever you have two reactions occurring simultaneously, and if oxidation is one of those, you're always going to write the enzyme for oxidation. So my enzyme in this case is going to be dehydrogenase. Okay, because I've removed the hydrogens and I've removed it from phosphogluconate. So my enzyme will become 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. Okay, so ऑक्सीडेशन के साथ कोई भी रिएक्शन क्यों ना होने दो, तुम हमेशा एंजाइम ऑक्सीडेशन का ही लिखोगे. So your enzyme will become 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. And in the next step, as you carry out isomerization, what you will do is that you're going to shuttle two hydrogens to the second carbon. So when I shuttle two hydrogens below, what am I left with at the top? An aldehyde group, that is CHO, right? And along with that, as I shuttle the hydrogens below, it will get converted from C double bond O to CHOH. The rest of the part obviously remains the same. There's going to be no change in the rest of the structure. So this gets converted into an isomeric form of ribulose, which is ribose. So by isomerization, by shuttling two hydrogens from the first carbon of ribulose to the second carbon, we have converted ribulose 5-phosphate to ribose 5-phosphate. Now, as you are doing this with pentoses and its phosphorylated form, we call the enzyme as phosphopentose isomerase. Okay, because your substrate over here is a 5-carbon compound. It has a phosphate group, so you are referring to it as phosphopentose isomerase. Okay, so that's how you converted glucose 6-phosphate to the level of a very significant pentose phosphate, which is ribose 5-phosphate. So this is the oxidative phase wherein you have been able to convert an hexose to a significant pentose molecule. Are these two reactions clear to all of you? Have you understood what we are trying to do here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so time to write it down.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, could you please explain once more what happens to the 2H plus?
In the first reaction over here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So when you remove, just give me a minute. When you are going to remove your hydrogens during oxidation process, it is going to come from this part. Okay. That's how it becomes C double bond O, because this is already gone. We have removed it out. Okay, so that's how this will become C double bond O. So one of these hydrogens will get converted as NADPH because NADP will accept it. The another H plus that is normally given out, that's going to be shuttled over here to the second carbon so that we can form CH2OH because you're short of one hydrogens over here. Is that clear now, Sitish?
Yes, sir.
हो गया लिख के सबका कि लिख रहे हो?
Yes, sir.
Sir, done.
ग्रेट, ठीक है. अभी जो हम लोग पार्ट डिस्कस करने वाले हैं वो थियोरेटिकल पार्ट है. बिफोर वी गो टू द नॉन ऑक्सीडेटिव फेज, we have a small theoretical section to discuss. I'm sure that many of you here have heard of this delicacy called as falafel, right? Have you heard of it? Have you ever tasted it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Heard of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is made up of something called as fava beans. Okay. Now you all know the very famous mathematician Pythagoras, right? Do you remember Pythagoras theorem?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Pythagoras had a huge followers community. Okay. So he had prohibited all his followers from consuming falafel. He said that if you eat falafel, you will fall sick and you may even die. Because he had experienced people in the past who consumed fava beans or delicacies made up of fava bean falling sick and dying. And his followers blindly followed him. They said that if Pythagoras has said this, we will not consume falafel or fava beans. Now, there is a reason for this. So, please understand that fava beans has this component called as divacine. Divacine gives rise to reactive oxygen species. So ROS gets generated in the cells in huge amounts. Now, even during our metabolic reactions, you have several forms of reactive oxygen species which are generated, like superoxide radical, hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl groups. These are all reactive oxygen species. Now, reactive oxygen species have ability of destroying the cell membrane. It has the ability to destroy the protein structure, and it even interferes with nucleic acids, especially with DNA, and damages it. So reactive oxygen species can create an havoc if it accumulates inside the cell. For this purpose, nature has given us ability to deal with reactive oxygen species. Okay, so NADPH is one such molecule which helps us deal with the reactive oxygen species in erythrocytes, especially where a lot of ROS can be generated. Now, this NADPH is basically going to help us convert the reactive oxygen species to safe forms of oxygen compounds which do not cause any harm to the cell. Okay, and obviously for this we need to have reactions which generate NADPH. Like you saw, NADPH was generated just now in the oxidative phase. If you see, glucose 6-phosphate to 6-phosphogluconolactone. So glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is one of the enzymes which is responsible for generation of abundant molecules of NADPH in our cells. And those NADPH help us deal with reactive oxygen species. So have you understood the link between glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase and ROS? What is the link? It's going to generate a lot of NADPH, which scavenges the ROS and protects us from the damages that can be caused by ROS. Now, the problem is that some people may be deficient in glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. They may be deficient in this enzyme which is responsible for generating abundant NADPH molecules. Now, there are other enzymes which generate NADPH. Okay, it's not that it's just glucose 6-phosphate. But always remember, the concentration also matters. Who contributes more to NADPH formation also is going to be significant. Glucose 6-phosphate is that enzyme which contributes maximum to the generation of NADPH. So if this enzyme is absent or defective, there are chances that these individuals may not be able to handle ROS if generated in excess, and that could make them fall sick and they could even lose their lives. It could be a fatal condition. But please understand that just the deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase does not guarantee that the person is going to fall sick, because we have to understand that the person will fall sick when lot of ROS is generated inside them. Okay, and normally जो ROS normal metabolism से generate होता है, वो मैनेज करने के लिए दूसरे एंजाइम से आने वाले NADPH इनफ हो सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर ऐसे बंदे ने फावा बीन्स कंज्यूम किया जिसमें डाइवसीन प्रेजेंट है, जिससे एक्सेस में ROS बनेगा, तब जाकर प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट हो सकता है, तब जाकर ये लोग बीमार पड़ सकते हैं और अपना जान भी गंवा सकते हैं. सो सिर्फ उस एंजाइम के डेफिशिएंसी की वजह से कोई मर जाएगा, ये सही नहीं है। वो तभी मरेगा जब एंजाइम के डेफिशिएंसी के साथ साथ वो कुछ ऐसा कंज्यूम कर रहा है जिससे आरओएस जनरेशन बहुत ज्यादा बॉडी में बढ़ जाएगा। Is this making sense to all of you? Are you all with me? Have you understood what I'm describing till this part? Because this is going to get confusing a little later. तो यहां तक समझ में आया है क्या?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
अब शुरू होता है एक्चुअल गेम। Okay, the actual game of confusion begins here. Okay, so when you talk about fava beans, when you talk about the divestine and the condition that it leads to, let me first tell you that this condition is what we call as favism. Favism. Favism, ये नाम दिया गया है to the condition which is caused due to consumption of fava beans. So you will see that people who are deficient in glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, उनमें favism होता है, and because of reactive oxygen species, it starts, the erythrocytes, they begin to lyse because their membrane integrity is lost. So fava beans consume करने के 24 से 48 घंटों में उनके RBCs lyse होने लगते हैं. So free hemoglobin is released out. That free hemoglobin is degraded to bile salts. So excess of bile is formed क्योंकि इतने सारे erythrocytes break open हो रहे हैं, इतना hemoglobin बाहर आ रहा है, तो बाइल सॉल्ट का प्रोडक्शन एक्सेस में होता है, क्योंकि जब भी फ्री हीमोग्लोबिन ब्लड में होगा, लीवर उस फ्री हीमोग्लोबिन को कन्वर्ट करता है इनटू बाइल सॉल्ट्स. सो ऑब्वियसली क्या दिखने वाला है इन पेशेंट्स में? जॉन्डिस और किडनी फेलियर भी होने के चांसेस हो सकते हैं. ओके, नाउ वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस कंडीशन of deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, जिसको G6PD भी बोलते हैं, शॉर्ट फॉर्म है वो, ग्लूकोज 6-phosphate dehydrogenase का शॉर्ट फॉर्म G6PD. अब ऐसे इंडिविजुअल्स का नंबर जो G6PD में डेफिशिएंट है, दैट फ्रीक्वेंसी इज हाई इन ट्रॉपिकल अफ्रीका, पार्ट्स ऑफ मिडिल ईस्ट एंड साउथ ईस्ट एशिया. अब तुम बोलोगे सर ज्योग्राफिकली इसका कुछ कनेक्शन है क्या कि यहां पर हमको 25% ज्यादा फ्रीक्वेंसी दिखता है G6PD डेफिशिएंसी का? तो बिल्कुल इसमें एवोल्यूशनरी कनेक्शन है. वो कनेक्शन ये है कि जिनको G6PD का डेफिशिएंसी है उनमें नॉर्मली ही आरओएस का लेवल ज्यादा होता है एज कंपेयर टू नॉर्मल इंडिविजुअल्स. इन इंडिविजुअल्स में आरओएस का लेवल ज्यादा होने की वजह से प्लाज्मोडियम स्पीशीज सरवाइव नहीं करते. यानी कि क्या है? इनको मलेरिया नहीं होगा. दे आर रेजिस्टेंट टू मलेरिया. सो सी, देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम. द G6PD deficiency is a problem. Going to accumulate ROS. It will be difficult to deal with ROS, but for some people who are deficient in this, it's going to be beneficial as well, because Plasmodium cannot survive here, because ROS will kill Plasmodium. The reactive oxygen species which is accumulating will kill Plasmodium, so they become resistant to malaria. So now you see why natural selection has taken place in these locations of tropical Africa, parts of Middle East, Southeast Asia, because these are the zones where malaria is most prevalent, right? So this particular Plasmodium parasite, it's extremely sensitive to oxidative damage. And in G6PD deficient human host, there's a lot of oxidative stress. So Plasmodium cannot survive. So it's an advantage. But at the same time, we cannot say that it's not a disadvantage, because ROS causes harm to us as well. Are you understanding this?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us understand what ROS does. So molecular oxygen का जरूरत है रेस्पिरेशन के दौरान. ओके, तो तुम्हारे माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल रेस्पिरेशन के दौरान या आयोनाइजिंग रेडिएशन को एक्सपोज होने पर या कुछ स्पेसिफिक ड्रग्स कंज्यूम करने पर या फावा बीन्स कंज्यूम करने पर आरओएस जनरेशन होता है, जैसे कि सुपर ऑक्साइड रेडिकल बनता है. This superoxide radical can combine with 2 protons and an electron in can form hydrogen peroxide, which is again dangerous, again a reactive oxygen species. If that H2O2 goes on accumulating, let me tell you that it will combine with more protons and electrons. Water will be released, and that hydrogen peroxide will be converted to hydroxyl radicals, which are also ROS. And सुपरऑक्साइड रेडिकल हो, हाइड्रोजन पेरोक्साइड हो, हाइड्रोक्सिल रेडिकल हो, ये सब कुछ ऑक्सीडेटिव डैमेज कॉज कर सकते हैं. They can destroy lipids, they can destroy proteins, they can destroy DNA, they can act on cell membrane and cause harm. So then how our body deals with this? ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है. So our body deals with this because of something called as glutathione. So glutathione in our cells is always maintained in the reduced form. Okay, which means that it has extra hydrogens. Now this glutathione reduced form will donate hydrogens to H2O2, and it will be broken down to 2 molecules of H2O. क्योंकि अगर मैंने इसको 2 और हाइड्रोजन दे दिया, H2O2 को 2 हाइड्रोजन और दे दिया, तो I can make 2 water molecules from it. The enzyme which functions over here to break the hydrogen peroxide to water via glutathione is what we call as glutathione peroxidase, because it's converting hydrogen peroxide to water molecules. And the donor of hydrogens for this process is reduced form of glutathione. So obviously after donating the hydrogens, the glutathione is going to get converted to its oxidized form. Now I can't keep this in oxidized form because और H2O2 बना तो मेरे पास reduced form होना चाहिए ना. तो इसको reduced form में maintain करने वाला बंदा कौन है? NADPH and H+. So NADPH and H+ is going to donate the hydrogens to the oxidized form so that it can be maintained in its reduced form. So the enzyme which reduces the glutathione is what we call as glutathione reductase. Let us discuss again. We said that we don't want H2O2 to accumulate. H2O2 accumulate होगा तो वो hydroxyl radical में convert हो सकता है, वो मुझे नहीं चाहिए. Okay, और मुझे H2O2 को scavenge करना है, तो हम उसको reduce कर रहे हैं. We are giving it hydrogens which is coming from reduced form of glutathione, and it is converting itself to oxidized form, and H2O2 is being converted to 2 molecules of water. Enzyme is glutathione peroxidase. Okay, but I can't maintain glutathione in the oxidized form because there will be more H2O2 generated, so I have to deal with it. So what am I doing? I'm converting the oxidized form back to the reduced form, for which I need hydrogens, which comes from NADPH and H+. So you're reducing glutathione using NADPH and H+. So the enzyme functioning there is glutathione reductase. And obviously NADPH and H+ is converted into NADP, which can then participate in metabolic reactions and get reduced again. Where is this NADPH and H+ coming from? The reaction catalyzed by glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, wherein you convert glucose 6-phosphate to gluconolactone. So now you understand how glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase becomes important, because it generates this NADPH and H+. If this is generated, my glutathione will be maintained in the reduced form. Only when my glutathione is maintained in the reduced form, I can convert hydrogen peroxide to water. Making sense to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
सबको समझा है ये चीज? Anyone
Yes,
who
sir.
wants me to repeat this, we can repeat it. There is no problem.
So can you please repeat once?
Yeah. So we said that we don't want H2O2 to accumulate. Okay. So we want to convert that H2O2 to the level of water molecules. To do that, I need extra hydrogens. Where does that extra hydrogen come from? Reduced form of glutathione. So that donates the hydrogen, converts H2O2 to H2O, and this glutathione gets oxidized. It has lost its hydrogen. Enzyme is glutathione peroxidase. But I can't keep this in the oxidized form because there might be more H2O2. So I want to convert it back to its reduced form, for which I have to give hydrogens to this glutathione. Where will that hydrogen come from? NADPHNH plus. So NADPHNH plus will give its hydrogen to the oxidized glutathione, thereby reducing it, so that this process can continue and H2O2 is scavenged. And NADPHNH plus gets converted to NADP. Enzyme is glutathione reductase because you're reducing glutathione. Where is this NADPH coming from? Your oxidative phase of HMP, glucose 6-phosphate converted to gluconolactone. Enzyme is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So if I don't have this enzyme, I don't have NADPH. If I don't have NADPH, I cannot reduce glutathione. If I can't reduce glutathione, I cannot convert H2O2 to water. Is that fine now, Sahil?
Yes, sir.
Now, you know what's funny? I told you that people who are resistant to malaria, it's a chance that they might be deficient for glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, right? Which means that G6PD deficient लोगों को malaria नहीं होगा. But funny चीज ये है कि कुछ anti malarial drugs जैसे कि primaquine, this particular anti-malarial drug, if accidentally is given to G6PD people, accidentally, it can lead to severe ROS generation and death. Isn't it funny? Because जिस mechanism से हम मलेरिया होने से रोक रहे हैं, that is by ROS generation, मलेरिया का दवाई उसी मैकेनिज्म से इंसान को टपका सकता है अगर वो G6PD डेफिशिएंट है तो, बिकॉज एक्सेस ROS बनेगा. फावा बीन्स की तरह, जैसे फावा बीन्स में डाइवेसिन इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर जनरेटिंग लॉट ऑफ ROS, प्राइमाक्विन का मैकेनिज्म भी वही है, मलेरिया पेशेंट्स में ROS जनरेट करके प्लाज्मोडियम को मार देने का. नॉर्मल पेशेंट्स में ये चल जाएगा, बट G6PD डेफिशिएंट जो पेशेंट है उनको अगर हमने प्राइमाक्वाइन दे दिया गलती से तो बर्बादी है. क्योंकि यू नो प्राइमाक्वाइन, क्लोरोक्वाइन, ये सब रिपर्पस ड्रग्स है, बहुत सारे चीजों में यूज होता है अदर देन मलेरिया. तो ऐसे में अगर तुमने ये ड्रग्स किसी और बीमारी में G6PD डेफिशिएंट पेशेंट को दे दिया तो तुम उसको टपका दोगे, क्योंकि दे कैन नॉट हैंडल ROS एट ऑल. Is that making sense to all of you?
So
Yes, sir.
if this drug is given in like higher concentrations than recommended, it can harm a normal individual as well.
Yes, that's the reason why chloroquine should not be prescribed if it is not essential and not at all beyond the concentration which is permissible. You have to stick. That's the reason why people who are treated for malaria, they normally also end up showing some complications. Okay, if their system cannot handle ROS effectively, they will end up showing complications. So they will be constantly monitored for symptoms of jaundice, because even if slightest of doubt is raised that this person is showing jaundice, they will then immediately discontinue primaquine, because it's indicating that the patient's body is not able to handle ROS. Okay?
Sir,
Yes.
what if we end up, like by mistake, we end up giving this medicine to a person who is deficient of G6PD? Are there any measures taken? Like, what can we do if this
So
is
in
this
those
happens?
cases, you will have to supply them with reduced form of glutathione, which is available. So that has to be given as an intravenous vaccination. But it completely depends on कितने जल्दी तुमने एक्शन लिया. क्योंकि अगर excessive damage of erythrocytes is already done and nucleic acids are damaged, we cannot revert that effect. But if you take the right action, discontinue primaquine and supplement them GSH, reduced form of glutathione, things can be brought under control. But time is very crucial. You should come to know that at an early stage. But if not, then there is nothing that we can do to reverse this. Okay?
Sir,
Yes.
like aging is mostly attributed to production of the reactive oxygen species. So like these people who are deficient in G6PD, will their lifetime be reduced or something like that?
Not at all, because this is completely a wrong notion that ROS is the only factor for aging. There are several reasons for aging, even shortening of your telomeres. So this is not just one cause for aging. Aging has several factors. This might be contributing like 15%. So in no ways this is going to affect their lifespan. And if they are deficient, any which ways, there are going to be several complications. So it might be very difficult to, if you say that are they going to die early, then as I told you earlier, that G6PD deficiency just cannot say, you cannot say is going to lead to clinical manifestations. In many people who are G6PD deficient, समझ में भी नहीं आता that they are G6PD deficient because they don't show any symptoms. Okay, as I said that there are several enzymes which produce NADPH in our system, and lower amount of ROS generated by normal metabolic processes can be handled very well using those NADPH. Problem arises when excess of ROS is generated. That's when the clinical manifestations start appearing. So people will lead a very normal life. Their lifespan is not going to be reduced. They are going to lead a very, very normal life. Only when they end up consuming fava beans or something that leads to ROS generation, then there is a chance that clinical manifestations will become more clear. Otherwise, you will not even realize. Someone amongst us may be right now G6PD deficient and we don't know about it, because we are in the zone where G6PD deficiency is normally common.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I think we can't step into the non-oxidative phase. I will be engaging Thursday Swapnil sir's lecture because he took my lecture yesterday. So I will be engaging his lecture on Thursday. So we will discuss about the non-oxidative phase on Thursday, and it's slightly trickier, but I'm sure that if you pay attention, it's not very, very difficult. Okay, it's just about being a little focused when we discuss that, and things will be easier for you. Okay, so we'll discuss the non-oxidative phase in our next lecture. Okay, see you all on Thursday. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
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 Sir.
Thank you.